Mm. You know when you find a kindred spirit and all your interests are sparked by the interests that are shared by another? My guest today, Ruth Wishengrad, is that kind of kindred spirit. I feel like my feet could just do a little tap dance in delight, thinking about Mumbles from the movie Happy Feet. We have to find our heart songs all by ourselves. It's the song we hear inside that makes us who we truly are. That phrase has rung in my heart for a long time. And even as I say these words, they've been etched in a memory that movie launched for me. And chatting with Ruth and hearing her story, she supports children young and old to find their heart song and to let it sing loud and clear. Ruth Wishengrad has a master's education and has a master's in education and has been teaching and training others for over 25 years, helping children and young at heart to clearly and effectively express and share their thoughts and feelings. How does she do this? In ways that are dear to my heart. She does it through fun, song, infectious melodies, rhythms, and movement. She even plays with puppets. That's the true kindred spirit part. So I love, love, love puppets, but you already know that. You may have listened to my Puppet Power episodes in season 1. So much can happen when our puppet voice finds a personality and they're allowed to shine. Today we're exploring how to find that heart song and the ways that Ruth can support others in their journey to express who they are and what they really stand for. And if you've been holding back your voice, maybe your opinion, your interests, or your true dreams, then the podcast today may inspire you to step forward, think differently, and bring out the you that can shine for others so that they can see and grow with you. You're listening to Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, sponsored by the Cape Breton Tea Company and Dance Debut Inc. Please welcome Ruth Wishengrad. Hi, Ruth. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you for a lovely introduction. Yes, Mumbles and Happy Feet. I love that. So great. Perfect.
Oh,
Absolutely perfect.
and then just watching little people when when they're standing there waiting for their parents, their feet are always just going, doing something, right? And often it's,
Hmm.
mom, mom, pay attention, mom, but then their feet are doing this little thing off on the side. I always love watching how that rhythm is already sitting there waiting. So, okay,
Well,
so
that actually, oh,
go
I was just
ahead.
going to say that brings up something that I actually tell people a lot, that we juice up the energy, and I know I'm probably going way ahead of things, but when you juice up the energy and then you learn how to bring it inside, so just like your heartbeat is always there, you're right, it can still come out of your feet too.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so let's pull a card from the affirmations for the body and biofield deck. So for those people not familiar, it's a card deck that I created a couple years ago with Tanya Levy. So this is the front cover of it. And what happens when I pull these cards is they're always timely for the topic, which is so much fun. So if the deck is of interest, it's on dancedebut.com in the shop. But this is what I pulled for today. And this is Red Kundalini. And this is how the energy goes up and down the spine and how it nourishes us, but also how it feeds our spirit. And the quote on the back is, our inner feminine and masculine dance together in perfect rhythm like one, unified in their dance, providing inner stability and strength. So I had a good giggle when I pulled that because I knew exactly where we were heading with our conversation, and that card plays into it so beautifully. Okay, so now we have the second part, which is we invite people to have a cup of tea, relax, and enjoy the podcast. And what have you put into your mug today, Ruth? What did you bring?
Well, I have this lovely mug of all these beautiful little teacups that was actually one of my aunt's mug, and just always reminds me of her. And I have peppermint tea, which is soothing and yummy and one of my favorites.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love the teacups. They're, for those that are listening to the podcast, they're just tiny little ones. And they have all these fancy designs. It's so great
Mm.
because there's so much fun in what we put our tea into as well. So I went a little bit different today. Usually I've got a mug, and today I thought, you know what? I'm going to actually put it into a tall glass. And then when I poured it in, it, for those on the podcast listening, it looks like champagne because it's got this light pink color to it. And I've got a lemon wedge on the side of the glass, and I have a Celtic knot. And these glasses actually I bought in Cape Breton where I live, traveled west back where we were actually living at the time, and then they came back to Cape Breton with us when we moved. So they've been on the road and they've got their Celtic knot on it. And I know you know, the Celtic knot can be lots of fun to add just for some fun. So the tea that I have inside is Summer Breeze. Right now we have a very blustering wind outside, so it's not exactly a summer breeze, but it does, the summer breeze is about berries that you find in the garden and just about those citrus tones of a lemonade. And so this is a great hot or cold drink. So with my tall glass to your teacup, Ruth, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's fun.
Mm.
Okay, so Ruth, let's start with how you managed to get into the work that you're doing, because you started out as an educator. You thought you'd be in the classroom, and life has its voyage for you. And I'm all about, what is that transformation place that says, I got where I thought I was going to go, and this isn't exactly where I wanted to be, and this isn't exactly what I thought I was wanting to be doing. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the work you're now doing?
I absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast and sharing a cup of tea with you and all that good stuff. So, um, you know, it's interesting that you say it didn't always take you where you wanted to go, but in retrospect, it was the exact path I needed to get to where I'm going, and I'll explain what that means. So I did start off as an elementary school teacher. I taught mostly first and second grade, and then I shifted from there into behind the scenes of teaching, because one of the things I really loved was, yes, I loved being able to be there for kids and being able to, spark that joy and all of that. And then I was like, well, I want to reach a bigger audience. So I ended up going behind the scenes of teaching and helping teachers with textbooks for them, the teacher's edition, as well as student textbooks. And I worked for Houghton Mifflin as a publishing company out in the Boston area many years ago. And then eventually morphed from there into becoming a graphic and web designer, and then kind of morphed from there and said, there's got to be something else. And I ended up I lived in the Boston area, ended up in California. I'd always wanted to live in California and ended up in California and was ready for something new, something that I didn't know, ready to reinvent myself. And for hours and hours when I first got out here, I lived a mile from the beach and I just walked on the beach. And I just said, what would I love? What would I love? And eventually I got this. I'm here in Santa Barbara, California, and there was a course at an adult ed thing for a singer-songwriter, and it was a free course. Well, something inside of me started bubbling up, and I was like excited and nervous and like wanting to do this and freaked out at the same time. It was a free course, Michelle, and just pressing the button on the submit form online, my hand was shaking. I ended up doing it. I did it with a friend. She backed out after the first class, and I loved it. And I was immersed, scared, worried, nervous, all those feelings, because I was always told as a kid, please don't sing. And yet I loved it. And I was a shower singer, a car singer, and all that. Long story short, I ended up, facing my fear, taking all kinds of workshops and deep dive into this and personal development and all this other kinds of stuff. I became a singer-songwriter, and I now have 2 albums of songs because I followed my heart.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And that process of going to recording, because
Mm.
there's one to sing, and there's one to know you have some content that you could put into an album. But it's a whole other thing to move yourself from there into, I'm going to go record the album and then I'm going to send it out into the world. How did you work through the fears of that one?
Well, even before that, the fear of actually getting on stage was like terrifying. And they say, isn't it? They say public speaking and singing on stage is worse than what is it? I don't know. Those are the two biggest fears. So I broke free of that fear and got up at a nightclub in town in front of 350 people. And boom. Okay. So then the recording part, as you say, I'm in one of these workshops and conferences or whatever, I met a guy who was a producer. And I started creating songs and doing that. And he lives 2 hours each way from me. So he in the Los Angeles area. And I got in my car and I drove, and he was just so wonderful. And I got through doing this, and he just loved my energy. I loved his energy, and it just gelled. And it was just, in fact, the actual recording sessions for me were so much fun. I want to do it again, and I'm getting ready to start maybe a third album, so that's something brewing, when I have a little extra time. But that is really something that I haven't done an album in a while, and I think it's time.
Wow. Okay, so usually we do kind of at the end of the podcast, how can people find you? But for those people listening right now who are going, what kind of music? Can you tell them where they can find your music so they'll be able to look it up?
Oh, sure. So my music is on my website. It's called upbeatsmedia.com. That's UPBEATS media.com. And if you go into the marketplace, there's the multimedia kit, and you can listen to some samples there.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. So now your work, you started out working with kids in education, and
Mhm.
you've got, the children that you work with, but then you have the young at heart. So do you want to talk a little bit about what it's like to educate across genres of ages and interests, and how your work applies there?
Sure. So when I started creating songs, I created this one song, or it created me. Let's put it this way. After a workshop, it came through me, and my feeling was, I want to get this out there. And then, of course, I got panicked, and I'm like, "Oh, nobody wants to hear this. Who wants to hear your stuff? How are you ever going to do this?" And all those negative voices started coming in. So a story from many years ago, when I was 21 years old, actually. I had been on an Outward Bound course, but that's a long story. But what I will say is, this song about I Can Do It showed up. And these are very short little, you know, have you ever gotten a song stuck in your head?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
I used to get other people's songs stuck in my head, and I thought, well, what if I got my own stuff stuck in my head so that it helps me feel good? So a song then came through from 21 years from when I was 21, sorry, when I was 21, all about I Can Do It. And I was like, wow. So here I'm going to get this other song called Just the Way You Are out to the world. And it's not the Billy Joel song, it's my own version. and uh, and I I started to say no, I couldn't. And I was like, yes, I can. You can do it. And then And then something interesting happened. I started realizing, like, I was like, yeah, yeah, right. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. I was like, I didn't believe it. And I was going, wow, what is it all about? And so I realized, I need confidence Confidence is actually the foundation of everything. And once I had that confidence, then I could do it. So a song came through called Confidence. Anyway, so you asked, how did I bridge from the kids to the adults? Well, I had actually put on my teacher hat, put on my curriculum development hat, and because these songs worked for me, I realized they could help kids. Created this entire curriculum, correlated it to standards and social emotional core competencies, and then all of a sudden I was teaching a dance class with people with Parkinson's with a friend of mine, and she said to me, "Hey, I love your songs, Ruth. Have you ever thought, let's do them in the Parkinson's movement class?" I'm like, okay, let's do it. And what ended up happening from there was incredible. I had this one guy say to me, after listening to the song and doing the move to the song, he said, after 6 times hearing the song, 3 times a week for 2 weeks, he said, I have chronic difficulties swallowing. And now when I go to swallow my medication, I hear your song in my head and I can swallow my medication like that.
Wow, that is profound.
So it rewired. And do we have a chance for another quick story about someone who's in their
Yes.
90s? Okay, this
Yeah.
woman, she was in her 90s, dear friend of mine, loved the philosophy of what I was doing, bought 100 of my DVDs because I do cross balancing, so I cross the movements cross the center line, and it helps anchor the message deeper into your body. So I invited her to. She said, I said, well, you love my stuff so much. Do you want to share? You know, she goes, I don't have anything specific to share. And I, okay, let me invite you to, for 2 months, every day, listen to the songs. There were only 3 songs, so it only would take like 5 minutes because they're very short. She said, okay, I'm game. And her kids would tell me, kids, okay, in their 50s, they're her kids, because she was in her 90s, right? So her kids would tell me, I would walk in and mom is dancing around and we're all dancing with her, and that joyful, playful, like you said, that spirit. And 2 months and 3 days later, I get a text from her, and she says, if I got a testimonial for you, can you meet me at the rehab center? I've fallen and broken my hip. I'm like, okay. So I go and get there, and she says, bring your phone and take the video right away so that you can hear my testimonial right off the bat. I was like, okay. Basically what happened was she lived by herself, and in the middle of the night, she fell. When she was coming back from the bathroom, she thought the bed was there, and boom, and she could hear her hip crack. And she said her phone was 6.5 feet away. It felt like 10 miles, and she was ready to give up. She'd just seen the kids and she was done. And then all of a sudden, she heard a song, my voice in her head. And to the rhythm of my voice and the rhythm of the music, she was able to move herself an inch by inch by inch, Michelle. She made it to her phone. It took her exactly 2 hours.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, without a shadow of a doubt, once she started singing this song, it was like a flow of energy was actually moving her across this room. And she became really clear, and she decided, I'm not going to call 911 when I get to the phone, which I thought, really? And she said, no, because they were going to bust my 2 deadbolts down and it would cost me $1,000. So she concocted this entire plan of calling her neighbor so her kids, so that the kids could take the ladder up the thing. Luckily her screen door was open, and anyway, she had this whole plan, and it was incredible. And then 4 months later, not only was she walking again, she was driving her car again. at age
Wow.
90.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
I bet you're wondering what was the song?
Exactly. Yeah. Which one?
Confidence. It was I Am Confident. And she told me at age 90, after singing the song for 2 hours, she ended up having a new relationship with her own self-confidence, how she talked with others, how she talked to herself. And it was absolutely amazing.
Wow. You know, you think about people need to make a change. They know something's not quite right. They don't know what they're going to do, but they think it's going to take a lot of work. And so somehow they don't make the change, or they get stuck, or they try something, but it was too elaborate. And I'm just thinking about, even in the work I do too with movement, the
Mhm.
changes are simple. They're just so simple, but they're so profound. And you think about that song can save a life. And then I'm thinking back to, okay, back to when you had the fear of, I don't want to get on stage and have my voice heard. I don't want to go and record an album because who am I to record an album? And are my songs any good? And if you had listened to all those voices across all that time, there was a life that needed you. Wow. Wow.
And the stories that I've heard from kids as young as 4 or 5 years old, all the way up to this woman 90 years old, about how hearing this song Confidence has shifted their entire energy, their entire way of being. I have a kindergarten teacher who's doing this with her classroom right now, and she said not only are the songs, she says her kids at lunch or at recess will bust out, she calls them flash mobs, and they'll just start singing one of the songs, and the one will start and the whole group will start singing them. And she said not only is the song getting, embedded into the way of thinking, it's also getting into their bodies. So through the curriculum, I teach about, really showing confidence in your body. And one of the things that she said is that even when a kid, raises their hand saying that they want to get up and answer a question, she sees them go from unconfident with their shoulders hunched and their head down to confidence where they actually take their fingers and push their shoulders back. They put a smile on their face. They take a deep breath and then they answer the question. She says the whole thing has like shifted their whole way of physically and emotionally their sense of being.
Wow. Wow. And we don't often relate that emotion to our body posture. You and I know what can happen with it because we work in the field.
Ex-
But for many people, they don't realize how you can be trapped within a posture piece. In particular, those of us who spend a lot of time at our computers or driving in a car somewhere, or even standing where you're standing always in the same position, which emotions end up getting stuck there. And how simple it can be to change your posture, change the way you're sitting, change the way you're looking, change the angle of your neck, and all of a sudden you have a different thought, you have a different capability. And I'm thinking about that little person, going in for an interview, 25 years later, sitting in that chair going, I'm just going to push my shoulders back, and just, I've got this, and that little, it's just embedded. And wow, what a lovely gift to be able to share. Yeah. So
yeah.
teachers in the classroom must be really excited about the construct that they have to work with, rather than coming up with
Mhm.
their own kinds of pieces that they're trying to do that they hope will be effective, but knowing that you're having this kind of effect, they must be pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and I think there's this added benefit, that it's it's also how kids relate to each other. Like the
Mm.
flash mob started happening, as she called it. But see, these kids, I mean, these kids who are in kindergarten now, they're pandemic babies. They did not have preschool or daycare. Probably they were at home, so
Mhm.
they didn't have a lot of social interaction. And so the whole curriculum is correlated to the social emotional core competencies, which is all about teaching kids how to share their thoughts and express their feelings in a constructive way, to let their voice be heard. Like, okay, so now we're singing, we're voice, we're learning about our bodies, it's the whole kind of thing all together. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So with those kinds of stories, tell me about your vision now. I mean, you've got a mission, I know, is to transform the way that people are reacting to their situations and the challenges that are before them. So how are you envisioning your move forward, where you're taking all of this?
Okay, well, excitingly enough, it is starting to hook into school systems now, which is fabulous. I am also working with homeschool organizations to get it into homeschooling, um, and and then very excitingly enough, I have a certification program, so you can get certified as a self-talk songs. That's the name of the program, and the name of the songs are self-talk songs, because it's our self-talk that helps direct what we're going to do, right? And I have um, so I have a self-talk song certification program, and I have an instructor who goes into memory care facilities, senior memory care facilities, and is working there. So the idea right now is to get this into memory care, senior care, assisted living, um, to really start moving towards inside and out, feeling good, and using that music and movement to help you feel confident from the inside out. Because my mission is to build a world of confident kids and inner kids, so that everyone feels worthy, valued, and loved.
Wow. I'm thinking about that 90-year-old because I think for a lot of people, they think, well, I did all the things I wanted to do and I'm satisfied with where I'm at. I'm retired. I see my kids, my grandkids, I see the neighbors, and it's great. But then to think about that realization and that gift of having a new understanding of yourself in your 90s, where you think you probably know just about everything about yourself that you could, but there are those
Right.
little gremlins that have been with you for your whole life that maybe you never got rid of, or maybe they were the ones that kind of sabotaged some of the things you did. Amazing to think that then, if you do that kind of transformation in whatever decade you're in, you have this opportunity to have a new relationship. It's just fascinating, um,
Mm.
where that can
Well,
take you.
yeah, and then think about it this way: the grandparent can now relate with their grandkids. So there
Mhm.
can be a new connection. And the fun, silly, we all love fun, silly. Some of us have a harder time being fun, silly when the older we get, because we've gotten a little crusty. But, to me, it's all about the joy, and it's all about the focus. I think you talked about that earlier, just saying where focus goes, energy flows. And the more we can the flow into that energy of what we want, because I mean, face it, some of us, and I was definitely one of those people, kind of was sleepwalking through my life for a stage. I had been picked on as a child, and I became my own best bully, and I learned how to bully myself. And so I ended up with depression and chronic pain for years and years and years. If I knew then what I know now, my life would have been very different. And yet it's a process, like you said, like if I had, like I needed to go through the teaching and through the curriculum development and through the web design and all of that so that I could get to this. And now when I'm here creating this stuff, I'm creating it everything because of all the skills that I gathered along the way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm thinking about many conversations I've had even in this last week of just what you're saying about, particularly it's the people in the ages 30 to 40s in there, and the
Mhm.
pains that they have, and the anxiety and the depression, and I know it happens for other age groups, but in particular it's been this last week a lot of conversations around it, and then the idea that this is getting old. And I
I
was saying to someone, it's not getting old. I felt yucky in my 30s and 40s. I feel
Mm,
fantastic in my 50s. So it's a lovely idea to realize that's not forever. And it doesn't mean that's the way getting old is going to be. We have this
right.
ability to transform it. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Do you have an example? Because I'm sure everybody, I'm like, I want to know, like, well, what are those lyrics? So do you have something you could share with us about movement and voice that give people a little taste of what you do?
Sure. Well, let's start with you said it yourself was, being sitting in a job interview and taking your fingers and pulling back your shoulders. So, are you familiar with Amy Cuddy?
Mhm.
She did a
Yeah.
TED Talk, lots and lots of views on that. And she talked about the power pose. So a good way to even do this, even if you're at a traffic light or in your car or before anything really important, is to really just pull those shoulders back, put a smile on your face, and feel confident. And one of the things I like to say is think about how you want to feel 15 minutes after that thing that you're about to do that's maybe making you a little nervous. And then just hold that. Hold that for like 15, 20, maybe even 30 seconds if you can. And now we're going to sing the chorus to I Am Confident. So those of you who are watching, or those of you on the podcast, we're just going to cross your arms in front of you like a pulsing action. So right over left, pulse, pulse, and then you're going to start down at the bottom. You're going to go to the middle, and then you're going to go up above you. Um, and um, here's the song. I am confident, confident, it's true. Confident, powerful, and worthy too. I have confidence in what I do. Now we're going to do curls. We're going to curl in that confidence. Confidence in everything I set my mind to. Confidence in everything I set my mind to. Point to your head and now push that confidence out to the world. You want me to do it one more time after I've
Yes. Yes,
explained it?
please. I'm like, okay, I was watching and listening, but now I'm like, okay, I'm on this.
All right. So I am confident, confident, it's true. Confident, powerful, and worthy too. Here we go up. I have confidence in what I do. Curls, confidence in everything I set my mind to. Confidence in everything I set my mind to. Point to your head and push that confidence out to the world.
Fabulous. Oh,
And
I
I'll tell
love
you,
it.
it's stuck in your head,
Yep.
and that's the whole point. It needs to get stuck in your head to enjoy and have it wash through you.
Mhm.
And here's a really fun thing that I was talking with a group of second graders, and I said, and they said, when do you use this? And I said, well, I wouldn't recommend that if you're in a library and you need confidence, or you're standing in line with your mom at the bank, I really wouldn't recommend busting out into I am confident. I said, what you could do is bring it right inside. And you can be singing that song, and I could be singing that song right now, and no one knows. And um, and so that's when we kind of said that you can, just like your heartbeat, you bring it inside, and just like your heartbeat, it's always there.
Hmm. That's perfect. And I think too, that's one of the ways that people avoid making a change is I'll do it later because I don't want
Mhm.
anybody to see me do something at the moment. Because it could be as simple as a stretch, but they don't want to be really seen or it's not quite appropriate to what they're doing. And I'm thinking about how much time I spend at my computer, and people can see me from the shoulders up, they can't really see the rest of my body. And so lots of times when I find I've been sitting for too long, my feet start moving around. So I've got the happy feet going on, and nobody knows, right? It's the same with that
Right,
song.
right.
Nobody knows. It's just who you are and a part of you, but people know the energy change that happens as a result of that.
And as you're singing it, what do you think? Because you've juiced up all that energy with other people or with the videos that I have, and gotten silly, and you've laughed, and you've like felt that energy. When you sing the song, what do you think you might be doing on your face? And then that energy starts to expand.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Beautiful. Um, all right. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the programs that you have? You've got those ones going on, but I know you've got a few other things in the works too. Do you want to share some of those projects?
Sure. I am doing another program that's called Burnout to Bliss Boot Camp. So I have a boot camp. It's a 3-hour boot camp that helps you go from, oh, like, how could I possibly one more day of this thing, to feel bliss in your daily activities. Um, and so that's near and dear to my heart, because I think, as I told you, that I had been a teacher, and the part I didn't tell you then, which I will tell you now, is I did burn out. And it wasn't because of the kids, it was because of everything else and lack of support and all of that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
However, if I knew then what I know now, things would have been different. Maybe I would have stayed longer in teaching. Everything worked out perfectly though, and I don't regret anything that has happened. I will say that even as a coach, have you ever felt, I know you're a coach and you do all this stuff. Have you ever felt like you're spinning your wheels and you just can't seem to finish everything you need to finish?
Isn't that every day?
Yeah. Well, it depends. If you do that with a positive attitude, it's one thing, and go, okay, I'll just get to it tomorrow. But if you do it with feeling, oh, I'm done. How am I ever going to do this? It's not ever doing anything. So it's shifting it from that burnout side to the bliss side, and that's really the focus that this boot camp has some pretty game changing, powerful techniques that can transform yourself in minutes.
I love it. I love it. And then the idea too of boot camp, because a lot of people I think that if they go for boot camp is usually like an exercise program, right? And if I exercise more, that'll help. It does help, but there's all of these lovely little intricate changes that you and I do in our programming, like you said, across brain work, which reflexes you're working with, what you're doing with the breath, where you bring the song in, all these little nuances that we can introduce in that speeds up that wellness component. And
Right,
those,
and like you said, that they only have to be fraction a little, it's like not like you have to do like a dissertation. You don't have to do this whole long thing. Little incremental changes make up
mhm,
big leaps.
mhm, mhm. And even because when you're doing workouts too, if you're doing workouts where you never actually cross over the midline, And it's an activity where it's always in that same plane, always a forward moving action, doesn't ever go to the side or to the back. You keep yourself in a kind of a box, and you make progress, but there's this way to make substantial progress, but also to really flip around your thought patterns and flip around, like you said, the confidence or the courage to step forward. And those pieces come with that ability to move in a way that is multidimensional rather than so much a forward focus. I just think about my husband. He's a cyclist. And so he spends all day at his computer looking straight forward, working on what he's working on. But then he goes and gets on his bike. And if it's in the gym on the bike, it's straightforward, right? Until he can get on his road bike. And then, oh, you have this world around you. You have all these things you can see. You have a different way that you react. And that really changes how that physical fitness activity now is feeding the brain and is feeding your thoughts and actually pulling you forward. And I know that's what happens in your program, because boot camping it means that you have all these ways that they may not have been moving or using things for a long time. So there's a lot of awakenings that can happen at boot camp. Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
And then I have one more thing that I will be launching a TV show on Transform Your Life TV. So look for my name, Ruth Wishengrad, on Transform Your Life TV, and something will be popping up pretty soon.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so now you went from I'm an educator to I'm going to write some songs. I'm going to sing those songs. I'm going to put them on a stage, and I'm going to record those songs, make a CD, and now you're going to have a TV show. So how do you leap from that one place to the next place? Because you said that so nicely and calmly, and it's like, okay, that's such an exciting adventure. So how have you managed to do that one?
Well, you know what? When I first started doing the songs, that actually was, have you ever heard of a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal?
Yep.
So my BHAG back then was to have my own TV show. And I had no idea how it was going to happen. And I decided that I couldn't get into the how, because that would make me go, it would really drive me nuts, because that wasn't the way of doing it. And knowing that things would work out and continuing to move myself forward, I just listened, and I just allowed, and I visualized, and I saw myself in this TV show. Now the TV show looks a little different than what than my full idea back then. It's evolving, so it might be a step right now, and then I think it will. I know it will actually eventually evolve into the vision that I fully had back about 8 years ago. So, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And even if you fall, or even if you fracture your hip, like I did back in December, I just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep moving myself forward, and trusting and believing that everything works out.
And the other little piece that you said that I think is a subtle piece underlying that is important for people to know is you're already saying it's evolving. So it's not that perfect image yet, because we all don't know where it's going to go, and we don't know if even that's the path you want to be on to that ultimate vision. That vision might have been the place that got you here, but then you might have things you never imagined that you haven't seen yet. And so for people to realize, taking that step forward doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be forward. Yeah.
Exactly. And I will give a little hint about the TV show. because you kind of alluded to it before at the beginning in the introduction, is there may be a puppet involved.
Well, of course, there has to be a puppet.
Still working on it, but there may be a puppet involved. I'll just leave it at that. Hey.
Oh my goodness. I have to say, I had my puppet, I had my monkey puppet, he's a gorilla and he's quite big. And I had him at the preschool class last week. And when I went to, he was telling the kids how they could dance and what the step was that was going to come next. And so he said, put your arms out to the side. And of course, my hand is in the puppet doing the actions. So I only have one arm. So I put it out to the side. So all the 3-year-olds took their other hand, put it behind their back, and did exactly what I was doing because I only had one arm.
Oh my goodness.
It was so lovely, but they were so involved in what I was doing that didn't even occur to them that, my other hand was somewhere else. So yeah, I just love puppets because they just bring a different quality and they remind adults to play and they remind adults to pretend. And we forget, we get wrapped up in our day and we get wrapped up in our thoughts. And when we stop and look and go, oh yeah, and I can do this. But it's another great way to build confidence because boy, when you have to have a voice for your puppet and an action and, you can't be scared about anything. You have to dive straight forward because that puppet's real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I look forward to
That's a whole new world for me, so, like we were talking about how the singing became this whole new world for me because, after being told, please don't, I got to do this. This feels right. There's something inside that's just wanting to come out from that. And for some reason, I have made several versions of this puppet, and I have spare puppet heads galore all over my little cottage that, nope, I don't like this one. That didn't work. Nope, no, I don't like this one. And just starting from scratch and just just continuing. And I really truly believe I may have got something here. Finally.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Beautiful. Okay. So Ruth, tell everyone again how they can find you, check out what's happening and a little bit about your television program so they can get in touch with what you're really doing.
Okay. Well, I actually do one-on-one coaching as well. So if you go to my website, upbeatsmedia.com, that's UPBEATS media, upbeatsmedia.com, you will see that I do coaching, I do consulting, I have the self-talk songs curriculum. There's it goes from self-paced to I can help with some of it all the way to certification. In my my marketplace, I have other products, a coloring book for kids ages 1 to 101, using all of these wonderful affirmations, as well as the multimedia kit that you can start singing and dancing along with me. So that's at upbeatsmedia.com, and all of that is there. And as for the TV show, once I have a link to all of that, it will of course be on my website. It is going to be hosted by Transform Your Life TV, which will be on Roku, Apple TV, like all over the place. And so once I have that information, it will be on my website so that there'll be a link from my website to there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, congratulations on the confidence and the courage to step forward to really have your voice heard because you're rocking this world. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, it's been so much fun talking with you, and I really do feel like you're a kindred spirit as well. When we connected some networking event, I just was like, I got to talk to that woman. I got to dance with that woman. we got to move together, we got to
Exactly.
move and groove together. And I've just really enjoyed how we've both stepped up to connect when there's just always so much going on. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you. All right. Wow. Okay. So as you're thinking about, what puppet or movement pattern you're going to do, I'm just going to close off with, I've got the confidence song going on in my head, but I'm also going to close off with the thoughts about happy feet. And if you do put that clip on from the movie where Mumbles starts moving his feet around, the best movement patterns that I can recommend to people is really let your feet dance, let them play, and the song in your heart will come through. And so that'll be the piece that I'll share from my movement perspective. Season 3, we are devoting to the transformational process that happens when people reach into their authentic selves and create magic. And our season has several focuses throughout the month, and we hope that they'll inspire and empower you to consider living your true heart's desire with love and compassion for others at the forefront. Thank you for joining us. This is Be Well with Michelle Greenwell, and I'm wishing you the courage to face your own transformation for the well-being of those around you. Take care.